Hello, lucky people. Lesson 2 from Caesar. All of this a little bit faster than we thought was going to happen, but hopefully that's okay. Let's start off with then. So, among the Helveti, apud Helvetios, among the Helveti, apud Helvetios, the most notable and wealthiest man, both superlatives, nobilissimus, dutissimus rather, was Orgetorix. During the consulship, this is how they worked out what year something was happening, and so the notes say this was 61 BC. So during the consulship of Marcus Messala and Marcus Piso, he was led on, having been led on, perfect, passive, participle, inductus, having been led on by greed for royal power. He arranged a conspiracy of the nobility, of the elite, and he persuaded his state to, in direct command, to go out of their territory, to leave their territory with all cum omnibus copies, with all their forces. This is now an indirect statement, taking the second form of this persuasion, and that it was a simple matter, these are now his words, that it was a simple matter to gain control, that it was simple to gain control, to gain power, poteri imperio, over all of Gaul, since, causal clause, since they were exceeding all others in virtute, in virtue. It was easier for him to persuade them, so he persuaded those people more easily of this. He persuaded them this more easily. He persuaded those people this. That sounds very clunky. I'm sure there's a more fluent way. He persuaded them of this more easily, facilius comparative adverb, because the Helveti were enclosed by the nature of their position on all sides, because the Helveti continentur were enclosed on all sides by the nature of their position. On the one side, by the river Rhine, very wide, latissimo, and very deep, which divided the land of the Helveti, which separates the Helvetian land from the Germans. And on the other side, by the Jura mountain range, extremely high, the highest mountain range, which is between the Sequani and the Helveti. In the third, by Lake Geneva, Lacu Lemano, and by the river Rhone, which separates our province from the Helveti. For these reasons, it happened that they did not vagerentur. For these reasons, it was happening that they wandered less widely. There's some litotes for you, how exciting. That they, what's the word? That they ranged about, that they vagerentur, I'm looking now, that they wandered, that they roamed less widely. For these reasons, it happened that they roamed less widely. I quite like that, quite poetic. It happened that they roamed less widely, and that they were less able, minus, to make war easily upon their finitimis, on their neighbours. And from this reason, from this cause, people literally desirous of war making, people eager for war, literally desirous gerund of war making, people eager of war making were afflicted with great pain, with great sorrow. So for this reason, people who were eager for war, but literally desirous of war-making, gerund, were being affected by great pain, by great sorrow. Because on account of the number of their people, multitudine hominum, and on account of their glory, literally their reputation of glory of war, they were judging, look for an indirect statement, that they had narrow borders. They had narrow territory, which was open wide in length for 240 miles and in width for 100 C1 L50 XXX 30. Look at me with my maths. 180 miles wide, which were literally line open in width, in length, 240 miles, 180 miles wide. Last bit. Adducti, spurred on by these factors, and permoti. Do you remember I told you, look for all these words, permoti, commoti, adducti, pateriti, and prompted by the influence of Orgetorix, they decided to comparare, to procure, to obtain those things which were necessary, which pertained, but which were necessary, ad proficiscendum, for setting out, gerund there, for the purpose of setting out, for departing. To buy, coemere, this is all the deciding, by the way, they decided to get those things for departing, and to buy the greatest number possible, quam maximum numerum, of animals and of wagons, to get quam maximas, as much corn as possible, so that, as much grain as possible, so that on their journey, or literally so that they would supeteret, so that they would have the greatest amount, copia, so that they would have an abundance, so that they would have enough, let's say partitive genitive, grain on their journey. And last of all, and this is still the deciding, and to guarantee peaceful relationships, to confirmare, to strengthen peace and friendship with their nearest communities, cum proximis civitatibus. They felt, duxerent, they decided amongst themselves that they felt that biennium, that 2 years, they decided amongst themselves 2 years, esse satis, to be enough for these matters to be achieved. Conficiendas Ashley gerundive, agreeing with the res, they confirmant, they guaranteed departure in the 3rd year, lege, with legislation. How about that? Well done, everyone. The 3rd one to come.